We love bringing you guys the positive stories of how armed and law-abiding gun owners managed to protect their lives, their families' lives, and their property thanks to the protections afforded by the Second Amendment. And not only does the legacy press not often report these stories, but it is an important reminder that there is a reason self-defense is a natural right. There are bad people out there. Evil's real. But there's another kind of story we hate bringing you but has to be heard. The stories of gun control failure and how it costs lives. These are the stories that the media loves to bring while always leaving out the important detail that the solutions by the anti-gun progressives led by Michael Bloomberg failed to stop. A 38-year-old prohibited possessor on probation has been arrested for killing a sheriff's deputy and wounding another officer. The incident began after deputies arrived on the scene of what should have been what Bernard Carrick and I were just talking about, one of those routine calls regarding a dispute between a customer and an employee at a Pep Boys in Rancho Cordova, California. Sheriff Scott Jones said, quote, as soon as they arrived and engaged the suspect, he turned as if to run or flee and then immediately turned around and started firing without warning. 27-year-old deputy Mark Stasiuk was killed after he was shot in his upper body, and 28-year-old deputy Julie Robertson was hit in the arm before firing back as Moore fled the scene. After a second shootout with other officers, Moore, who also goes by the name Anton Lemon Paris, was shot multiple times and has since been transported to a hospital. Now, as I mentioned, Moore was on probation already after pleading no contest to a misdemeanor charge of carrying a loaded firearm 3 years ago. Now, for that crime, he received 15 days in jail, 3 years probation, and most noticeably, given this shooting, he was prohibited from possessing a firearm for 10 years. That's not even all of this criminal's past. In 2003, he was charged with assault with a firearm, and his criminal record extends back further to 1998. This was a bad guy, a man who was prohibited from owning a gun, and yet he had one anyway. How? That's not a question that the anti-gun advocates seem interested in answering or really even asking, despite the fact that in case after case, time after time, shooting after shooting, these same failures of gun control keep appearing. Instead, those advocates want more of the same, even as they call any proven measures, such as security and law-abiding gun ownership, a distraction. And sometimes even the best armed person can be surprised, such as happened here, and suffer at the hands of evil men like Moore. But let's not forget that he fled before inflicting more carnage because the other officer did have a firearm. And let's not also forget that later, when he was taken down, it was again because people were armed. There's no stopping bad people from existing and hoping to do harm and finding the means to do so. And good people will always be in danger of finding themselves up against that evil. But I wonder how that op-ed writer we spoke of earlier, the one who wants to disarm police, I wonder how he would react to the idea that this routine stop ended in the death of an officer that had his whole life ahead of him. I wonder if that writer thinks that it's bad that the other officer was able to prevent the shooter from taking more lives because she was also armed. Would the people who didn't die in this situation have been acceptable losses so people could feel less anxious around armed officers? Officer Stasiuk was a 4-year veteran of the department, and now his family and his loved ones are burying him, and along with him, all of the hopes and dreams that he had for his future. Our deepest sympathies go out to them all and to the department that has lost one of their brothers. Our prayers are with the Stasiuk family.